Hello, 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 hello. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome back to another fine Crypto Traders Arena program. Kevin here, streaming to the general public on YouTube to talk a little bit of crypto. And I will be doing that every Tuesday going forward for the time being. So every day, basically right at the New York Stock Exchange close, which is right now, which is 1 p.m. West Coast time. So yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello again. And looks like crypto just took a little dump here a minute ago. Um, Bitcoin's selling off a little bit, and altcoins are getting hit a little harder. But I'll get into that in a minute. Maybe I'll just start off real quick by just reminding everybody a quick disclaimer. This is just my opinion here. I'm just talking about what I'm seeing in the markets and what I'm buying. I'm not telling you guys what to do with your money, and if I can be of help and try to offer some sort of reasonable perspective on the markets, that'd be great. But of course, you're gonna have to make your own decisions on what you go and buy. So I guess not financial advice, they say. And really, you gotta figure out how to do this stuff for yourself, anyhow, if you want to make it work for you. So with that said, too, I'll add that we're an online community on Discord, Crypto Traders Arena, and we focus primarily on crypto, although we do a lot of stock trading and traditional futures market type trading. And most of our focus is on actually getting in the market on a daily basis, and a lot of day trading, a lot of swing trading, scalping, trading setups every day. And we have a group of people that are funded on like my forex funds and stuff, so they're trading like like S&P 500 and oil and gold. And I like to trade the CME futures, mostly the Russell 2000. So we do trade stuff outside of crypto, but we do keep a pretty good focus on crypto as well. And of course, everybody's trading on Binance futures except for me, because I'm in the United States. And actually, I'm showing no data. So if somebody in here could just say something in the chat and make sure I'm streaming. Okay, it says excellent connection now, but I looked up at my YouTube screen and saw it say no data. So I think I'm streaming, but if anybody could confirm that, that'd be awesome. Make sure my audio is working and everything. But where was I? So I was, I was saying I can't trade on Binance, being in the US. And really, if you're a US resident, and even like Canada, I think these days, oh, cool. Thanks, Hanya. Unfortunately for some of us, our local jurisdiction doesn't really allow us to access sort of like crypto leverage products. So most recently, KuCoin finally cut us off. So that was my last place I could truly just kind of trade like day trade futures on, or I should say like forwards on perpetual swaps. So I'm kind of out of that game for the moment, but I still am just kind of plugging away with my sort of investment plan for crypto. And I'm primarily using Coinbase and Kraken now for that at this point, and hoping to do a little bit more on-chain stuff. But for the purpose of this show, I'm covering still all the Binance stuff too, and basically covering everything for the entire crypto universe. Even though I can't trade some of it, like YGG. The other day I thought I had a pretty good call on YGG. Gave everybody plenty of notice to buy that thing, and I sat on the sidelines while it went like 4 or 5x. But hopefully somebody took advantage of that. I was talking about that in this show a couple weeks back. But anyhow, back to our Discord community. So I just wanted to say that we are on Discord, and I did make a link. We've recently gone private, just to kind of eliminate the scammers that were popping in every day. And if you are interested in joining our community, then I did make a link here at the bottom of this YouTube show. It's a 7-day expiry link, so it'll be good for the next 7 days. Feel free to click on that and join our Discord. And if you miss that link, then you can always just reach out to me or Paul on Twitter, or Stefan, or any other gladiator trader at Crypto Traders Arena can all get you in the group. So probably the fastest way is just find me on Twitter at Double Uses, or Paul at Paul J Trading. just Crypto Traders Arena, Paul J Trading, and just DM us and we can get you in. And I'll get into it a little later, but we are launching our sort of trading program here pretty soon. So I'll talk more about that later, but I want to get into the charts first. So let's do that. Well, I did want to make one more comment actually about risk management too, just because it was on my mind here before I get too far into charts. I just wanted to really quick remind everybody that risk management's key, and if you want to make it in this game, hopefully at bare minimum you've created some sort of risk management strategy to keep you out of trouble. But really, we talk about buying altcoins a lot here, and we often talk about buying lots of them and holding a lot of different coins. And I just want to remind everybody that in terms of risk management, this sort of altcoin investment strategy is sort of like one big bet, and so it's a very correlated market. And you're not diversified at all, even if you own like 100 different altcoins. There's no diversification there at all, in my opinion. In fact, you can see even just today, Bitcoin dipped like 1% here just a minute ago, and the whole altcoin market got ripped, or just got kind of dumped on to most of it, at least it seems like, from just what I saw at first glance. And so just quick reminder of that, so if you're thinking that you're diversified because you own a huge portfolio of altcoins, I hate to tell you that you're not, or I'm sorry to tell you. And so just keep that in mind. And so really from a risk management standpoint, you should be kind of carving out a X number of dollars of your, whatever your total wealth is or portfolio is. And really only a portion of that should be going into the altcoin market. And it should be kind of considered one big bet. And so it's whatever you decide in terms of percentages, how much you're willing to throw into the crypto market, just remember that that's like one giant bet of risk. And so, just keep that in mind. And of course, risk management is sort of the core factor in success at trading. If you're not like practicing healthy risk management, you're going to blow yourself up. If you're taking, if you're like willy-nilly, like going all in on one trade and maybe you even get lucky and win. So the next one you go all in again and then you lose on that one, or maybe you win a trade and then the next trade you put like a 5 times larger bet on the next one, and that's the loser. You're just gonna get run over. So bare minimum, before you start messing around with these markets, I think you need to have a risk management strategy. So keep that in mind. Now I'll get into the charts. I don't know why I was just thinking of that a minute ago and wanted to just comment on it. Really, I just wanted to comment on the importance of risk management, and also just how I've kind of viewed the correlation of crypto and how it's not diversified. Okay, so let's real quick, let me get into the broader market and just make a couple comments. Sell-off in the stock market has continued, still continues, and it looks like Bitcoin's been kind of a sideways for the whole time the stock market's been selling off. And of course it did just dump a little bit, but not in the bigger picture, not a very big move. But I want to start with the DXY as usual, just because we did come up into the 200 period moving average, which I've just been talking about forever, I feel like. And so now we're at like what I would consider a key level to sort of determine whether or not we have a change in market state, you could say. We've basically been making lower highs and lower lows, since since all the way back here where we truly rolled over on the M top here. Looks like my fibs are a little off here. What's going on there? That's funny. My fibs were off, so I fix that in a minute here. But since this M top way back here, we've basically established a downtrend, which was further confirmed by the loss of the 200. And essentially, we've just been making lower highs and lower lows ever since. And now we're coming up to a place where it's like, okay, are we going to continue making lower highs and roll over here, or are we going to change that market state and maybe move into either just stay range bound or possibly even start an uptrend up into higher levels? And I think it's too early to say for sure, but we're in like a pretty key area here, and so it's a good time to be watching here. So like, slammed up into the 200 here, which is also in sort of like reload zone short fib location off of this range here. And even if you drag the fibs back to this high, it's actually hit Mountain Man. So even depending on where you want to draw your fibs, we could go all the way back to what I would consider this like range high right here if we are in a range, just because it's like sort of the key high. Ever since we broke the 200, and we've been somewhat range bound, even though we did lose the lows here. So even if you drag your fibs back there, we're still coming up into Mountain Man here, 61.8, and it's also the M top level here. So there's a lot of confluence right where we're sitting right now. So I think it's a pretty important level. Also, we have this trend line just slightly above here, which is off the top of the range here. So lots of interesting levels right in this area around where we're sitting at 103. And you can see yesterday we actually came up into the 200 and got rejected. And then, earlier today, this was a red candle. Kind of looked like it could fractal out here potentially, into tomorrow. And we would put in sort of like a 3-bar top here to suggest maybe we're in a, we're rolling over a bit. But gotta say, it looks pretty strong right now. It's still just sort of banging against the 200 and hasn't done anything yet. And I think, really, this 200, we could oscillate around it and potentially like M or fractal out above it and still roll over. We haven't truly tested the old high yet, but we're still making, like I said, lower highs. So I'm just watching this closely because I think this is directly related to whether or not the stock market will pivot here soon. And if this rolls over, then I think we could look for a pivot in the stock market in the next couple of days. And I am kind of thinking we'll maybe bounce a little bit, but I'll move on to the stock market here. But I'll just make one last comment: is if you look at RSI down here, the DXY is not anywhere even close to being overbought yet, so it does still have room to grind higher. And of course, like when I dragged my fibs up here, the reload zone was a little higher, and we're hitting Mountain Man, but we're not into it. So I definitely could see popping up in here, but any sort of top look in here will sort of mark the stock market pivot if we're going to get it. And then just kind of moving on to the S&P, man, it's been quite the sell-off here for now, like 2 weeks or so. Didn't find any support here. I mean, I kind of did. It bounced a little bit, but I had originally sort of, when we were this was like the gap down here. That was like the FOMC, I think. And ever since we've basically just been dumping with only, 2 green candles in that whole last 2 weeks. But I did think, just simply drawing a support line off of this old consolidation W where we last broke out from. Thought maybe we'd find some sort of bounce there and maybe at least get back up into this gap, but couldn't really find much support there. And also this trend line off that same W, that was like a nice area to think about a bounce, but certainly couldn't get it. And a couple of these candles look pretty ugly because like that was right on the moving average cross. We tagged the 13. Usually the one after it is worse, but you can see how we ran up in, this day we had a nice green day for a while here and then just got rejected. Now today we actually that's the first tag after the cross, which that's like a short location for me. So that's not a good sign. As soon as we tagged that and dumped, that doesn't look great. The only reason I would think maybe a pivot's coming is just because we have sold off so hard. But of course, that doesn't mean it has to. In terms of where the S&P might find support now is... unfortunately, there's just kind of open air all the way. There's this gap right here that's like a magnet. I don't know about support so much, but definitely like a magnet. So 40, what is that? Like the gap starts at 43.25. So, I could easily see price getting sucked down into there, which is going to be a pretty big, that's a pretty big move to the downside. If we go straight down to that, people are going to be shitting their pants. And that is a support level back on this key high here, and this is kind of like, see how I was talking about the DXY, but right here is a perfect example of what might happen with the DXY. It's too early to say, but just run up into the 200, confirm the downtrend by getting rejected. We'll see if that happens or not. And if that does happen, then I think we'll bounce here. But man, looking at this right here, it doesn't look great. There's not really like a, I've talked, on Sunday, the last public show that I did with Paul on Sunday, I went through I think I at least went through all the reasons why the rollover here isn't a huge surprise. One, we definitely have like trade location, up against the old highs now, beyond 78.6, good short location in general. And then also just a ton of like divergences and stuff, like RSI divergences confirmed, OBV divergence confirmed. And even when I turn on this divergence indicator, there's like 9 of them. So we now have 9. I don't even know if this thing goes higher than 9. I don't know how many indicators it tracks, but there's 9 confirmed divergences here. So those are 2 good independent reasons why this thing might roll over or might have rolled over. But what's missing is there's no real structural top here. Just kind of messy. No M top really. Not even like a truly good fractal, to be honest. It's just sort of like messy. So that's the only thing missing from like a nice solid 3 reason trade. But doesn't really matter because price sold off anyway. At this point now, I think it's just a question of how deep do we dip. And the last thing I'll say is that I do think the trend is still up, especially with the 200 pointing up here. So there's just this giant open window here of like, you know, when we get back to the 200, like, do we get all the way back to the 200? But if we did dump all the way down there and then still set up any kind of W's or anything to move higher, then the trend is still up, in my opinion. The trend won't truly be broken until we start doing like M's and stuff on the other side of the 200. I suppose another way of looking at it is you could draw a trend line off of the lows here and say the same thing, which is probably going to give you a tighter, well, actually it's not really, well, it's tighter than the 200 a little bit, but you know, just drawing that trend line perhaps kind of shows you still we have a lot of room to dip, is all I'm saying, before we actually break the trend, this solid uptrend that we're in. I mean, if we do bottom out somewhere down here, we're just making another higher low, right? So I guess you could, one thing you could say is we're range bound from the old highs to the lows, which is a very wide range, and we're up near the top of the range, so shorts are totally reasonable. And while it's a little too late to be shorting right here, I would say any bounces, like especially like up into that gap, that could produce like a really nice short. You know, if we bounce up into that gap and then roll over, that'll actually make an M. And also that's great short location up against the highs here into that gap. So I'll be watching for that. But in general, I'm still kind of on the bull. You know, I'm still like a long-term bull. I just think, you know, we got to establish another higher low here, which we have not done yet. But there's no M top yet. Unfortunately, the NASDAQ does have an M top. So this is more toppy looking to me. Everything applies the same location, essentially, same divergences. A little different in the sense that the NASDAQ, I have this trend line off the old highs, and we found some sort of like action there last time. And now we're just dumping right into that trend line, which kind of starts looking like it's setting up a head and shoulders to me. So this would be sort of like good night for the bulls in a lot of ways too. If we, you know, we dump down into this trend line, which could even happen here in the next couple days if we don't catch any sort of bounce. I mean, you can see now we've tested the 13 EMA twice here. We crossed, tagged it there, got rejected, and now we hit it again, basically, and now I've gotten rejected again. Not a good sign. And now they're, you know, the moving averages are rolling over, so kind of suggesting the upside is sort of on pause for sure. But this head and shoulders is kind of what I'm thinking could happen here. So we dump down against the trend line, catch a bounce right back up into the old M. So that, you know, basically just hit the M top level would form the right side of that shoulder. And then at that point, the target does become somewhere down here at like the 200% level. So like the head and shoulders target would be, let's see here. Let me flip that around. Yeah, so that's down at 38.2. So that kind of makes sense though. That's a fib level drawn off the lows here all the way to the high. 38.2 is 13,932, which is the head and shoulders target, which by the time that happens, the 200 might be up in that area. So yeah, it looks like we could dump down there. And still, same story with the S&P, still kind of maintain the uptrend, but just have this mega pullback. And I think it's kind of too late to short here too, right? I mean, I don't know. If you're like buying a, you know, you're trying to short this market here and risking to the highs, that's a pretty wide window. And I do think it's likely this head and shoulders would, if this is the top, it's still likely we get a bounce higher to load shorts up. So I don't like the idea of just hitting a short right here. It's a little late. Of course, if you're short off the M, that seems more reasonable, you know, and you did have several days to do that if that's what you were looking to do. Personally, I'm still in the pullbacks or buying opportunities kind of camp. I'd rather see this thing pull back pretty harshly and then set up new longs and then, you know, maybe hunt stocks for longs. It's kind of more how I'm leaning, but we'll see what happens. Maybe we go into full blown depression. I don't know. But okay, really quick, moving on. Just the Russell 2000 small cap stock market I want to mention. It's selling off really hard, man. It's just getting wrecked today. Also didn't really find much support where I thought we might. I'm still kind of looking for this ABCD to take price up to the old highs here and just sort of test the top of the range. But maybe this is the best we're going to get for the top of the range. And unlike the NASDAQ and ES, this has very much been range bound forever. And I'm kind of looking for some sort of move. I would like to, I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is what I want to see happen, to trade stocks, on the long side and like invest in stocks and like small cap stocks. I'd really want to see something like this happen before I get too excited about going and like, buying stocks, trying to sell house on doubles and stuff like that. And it's just not really happening yet. It looks like we're still range bound. We'll probably have to come back down maybe to the 200 here and just see what it wants to do. That's the middle of the range essentially. And it's just not doing much. It looks kind of ugly here, but there's no top. There still is like the same kind of divergences. And of course, location's pretty good against the top of the range here. And I bet that's probably third. Let's see if we drew fibs off of the very top, that might be 38.2 there. It's probably 50% level actually, but yeah, so we're basically 50% level is the top of the range here. So yeah, that makes sense that if we can't get above there, then it just means that the bull trend is not starting yet. I think it needs to get above here and consolidate and push higher to confirm any sort of trend. Right now we're just range bound. So maybe it has to come all the way back down to the bottom of the range. We'll see. In terms of the RSI, this is a cool study just because the RSI trend line is pretty clean here. It M'd out through the trend line. Kind of thought we'd bounce a little bit and maybe M out again underneath it through the 50, but we really just dumped right through it and not oversold yet. So there's still room to head down, but we definitely, fallen through the 50 line and it's just cranking down. So, I mean, I guess, I was mentioning possible pivots and I'm thinking I'm thinking there's going to be a bounce this week, but mostly just because we've sold off pretty hard. And that's just sort of a guess because really there's no bottom here. Let's just be clear. Like there's no W's anywhere in this chart or even like a 3-bar fractal or anything to suggest that the indicators have turned. And it's the same story for the NASDAQ and ES. But anyway, that's, so the point is stock market's still selling off. Wait for the DXY to see what it's going to do. If it actually can roll over here, then maybe the stock market has a chance of bouncing. And we used to jokingly say turnaround Tuesdays. The stock market does like to pivot during the London session on Tuesdays. So that would be later tonight, like 10 hours from now or something. So if turnaround Tuesdays in effect, maybe we see some sort of bounce into tomorrow, but we'll just have to see. A lot of that's dependent on what the dollar does here, but it looks like it's putting in like that's a pretty bullish looking candle so far. And we'll see if it can close above the 200 or not. But moving on to Bitcoin, let's see what happened in crypto here. It seemed like right when I sat down a minute ago, prices were coming off a bit. But Bitcoin's still in the exact same place it's been forever. Nothing's really changed. In fact, we're just putting in dojis after doji after doji. Look at there's so many. It's actually crazy when you even going all the way back to here. That was July 15th. There's so many dojis in there. It's just like price has just been kind of range bound and in a pretty tight range for quite a while now. Even if you take the high, this high is 31.9 and the low is 28.5. So you have like what is that, $2,500 range about? It's wide enough, but that's going back to that high. In a weird way, we've established a new lower range just through here because we can't seem to break out. But for me, the story is still the exact same. Like I still see 35,000 as being like a potential upside target. If we can get up there, that's a place where I think price might roll over into the end of the year. If we can get up there. So far, it hasn't confirmed. I've been talking about this ever since like back here. Like I think back in here, I was saying, well, I'm looking for price to dump down into like Collins pump chaser zone off of this range. Like if I turned this into just regular fibs, oh, that's the wrong one. Like 38.2 to 50% level is right, like this kind of zone right here. And it seemed reasonable that that's where price was headed, even, back in here. And sure enough, we did dump down into it. And I've been drawing W's down here and then, postulating on this sort of trend continuation trade up to 35K, which I think is like sort of a key potential level. And, just to repeat myself, I suppose the reasons here are, the head and shoulders. This is like one of the nicest head and shoulders that you see really like on a daily chart. That's why I still think 35 is reasonable, because the thing I like about this head and shoulders is, it formed and then it broke out and it came right up into 1.618. If you were to draw an extension from here to here, that's 1.618. And then it came down and checked the neckline and found support. That's like a perfect head and shoulders to me. And like, I guess what I'm, just to show you what I mean by that 1.618, like if I change this, maybe I could go, let me flip that. You could see it wasn't a perfect tag, but basically got up into 1.618 and pulled back. And depending on where you look at this, I think I've looked at it on other exchanges where it was a perfect tag, but either way, that's close enough. Ran up into it, came back and pulled back and bounced off the neckline. And so that kind of to me means the head and shoulders is very active. And the target is up here at 35. Well, 35,117 to be exact on this Coinbase chart. And of course, that's also 38.2 off the entire range off the top, which is 36,000, basically 35.9. And then just 35,000, big fat round number, just even number. So I like, I like that number, and just postulating like where price might top out here in this sort of this year's rally, whatever you're going to call it, dead cat bounce off the lows. Of course, like doubling off the lows, we bottomed out down here at 15.4. So, a double's right. We've basically been sitting right around where doubles are, double levels for people that bought the bottom. So it's not a huge surprise to see kind of traffic right in this area as people sell on doubles and stuff like that. But that's assuming, whatever. Anyway, getting on to my point, 35,000, I like that number. So when this, we've basically been making higher highs and higher lows, and now it's like, is this a higher low that's coming in right here is the question. And if it is a higher low and we're going to put any kind of W's here or anything like that, then a move up to 35 would just be an ABCD. So I like that. And this is like a TRI bot, that I have drawn on here. And the reality is this trade hasn't confirmed yet. That's what I'm trying to get to here. Is I've been talking about this forever, but I don't think you can argue this trade's ever set up. There's no W's in here. There's nothing, there's no structure to work with. We've just been chopping away here and washing people out, taking out stops to each side and just sideways. We're basically at the exact same level we were back here on July 24th. So almost a month, and we're just sitting right where we were after somewhat volatile chopping around. And of course, this setup, like the actual TRI setup, doesn't confirm until break through the 25 line anyway. So, I have this like yellow sort of W kind of thing. We really need to break out of this range to confirm this trade. But in my view, I mean, any sort of W's coming, any sort of solid W down in here, and I think you could take a long. So I'm still waiting. Like, so if you're like a position trader, there's just been nothing to do in Bitcoin. I think I almost said Dickcoin. I didn't really, but for some reason I said D. Dickcoin. So anyway, nothing to do here, but it looks kind of heavy. The more this kind of ranges, the less faith I'm having in here, because the 200 is getting closer and closer, and I could see just dumping down into it. Because like I think I've said many, many times too, there's just open air here. We did come down into like a key support level, and that's currently the low, which is just, this last high here. Seemed reasonable, dump down into there and bounce. But this is just open air right here. Like if we put a volume profile on here or something, there's just going to be like a hole there, which we'll do that for fun just because why not? Although I forget where volume profile is. Let's see, like, try that one. Even if we just went like off of this, I mean, that's just this, essentially all the price action back to this low. And you can just, I mean, if anything, you can just see there's like no volume. There's no business being done right here. It's just empty. And so there's a lot of room to play around in here to fill that and to drag the POC down, sort of to make sort of a more parabolic or like parabola looking volume profile. So there's just empty. I mean, there's like, that's like a single tick bar right there at 27,500, which is also Mountain Man of the range. So, I mean, I don't know. It's starting to look, I mean, just as much as there's no W to the upside, there's not really an M to the downside either. But I suppose we should probably start thinking about potential ABCs to the downside too. So it's sort of like a 50-50 trade now at this point, right? Like, because we could easily just also draw like ABCs like this from like that high to there. Let me change that color. And then, you know, from this high down, and that would take us into like reload zones. So, you know, that just as much as you know, the bot calls for three higher lows here, the downside bot would be 3 lower highs, and we have 1. So there'd have to be an M in here still. But basically you're just in the middle of the road. That's like a 50-50 trade to either side. I still am, you know, I still like the idea up to 35, but that's just sort of like, I don't know, maybe that's even my bullish bias. I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen for sure, and it hasn't. There's no reason to take that trade yet. So if you go and take that trade right now, you're in my opinion, you're taking it with very little confirmation. But anyhow, so another kind of, you know, this was the sell-off. People seem to be freaking out on Twitter, but that doesn't look that big a deal to me. I did notice altcoins seem to get hit a little worse, but and Ethereum too. But that doesn't look like that big a deal here. It's just more of the same. You know, we've just, like yesterday's candle is just a doji, ugly kind of wick and tail to each side, pretty good size. So probably something similar today. It's just Bitcoin's just not doing anything. And Ethereum, I'll just add that, yeah, it kind of got dumped a little harder, but it's already getting bought up a little here. But I do, when I see this trend line in the 200 there, it's like, it's gonna hit it. We'll see. At this point, it's. I mean, I've been saying we were just range bound here. You know, Ethereum's been in the middle of this range for quite a while now. The 50% level is like up at 1880, the middle of the range, and you know, we spent a lot of time there, and then have been dipping below it. But it's just been like a slow grind towards the 200 here, and this is actually good. Again, just kind of thinking about trending and ranging markets. I mean, clearly Ethereum in the bigger picture, all of crypto is sort of in this bottoming range. You know, we keep talking about like a, you know, accumulation year, and that's still very much in effect. And I think you could, like with Ethereum, you could just simply say the top of the range is, you know, up here at 2000 and the bottom of the range is at 900 or so. And we're just sort of range bound as we're trying to find a larger bottom. And I do think like, yeah, like if we go to like a weekly chart and just think about it that way, then, you know, it's like we did truthfully have a weekly W here, right? There's a big old W that confirmed, and then now we've just kind of come back inside of it. And this is what like a bottom looks like. We're just carving out this longer bottom that might take all the way, you know, next year, or even the year after, for all I know, before we truly go into like an uptrend that starts thinking about taking out the old highs or getting up to the old highs. So that's like in the bigger picture, but just in the shorter kind of trend picture, like we have been in an uptrend this year, and that's simply marked by just higher highs and higher lows, and this and the 200 too. You know, and anytime, you know, when I see a 200, when I see like a bear market like this, you know, we go into a long bear market where the 200 is strongly pointing down and price is dumping, and then slowly starts consolidating against the 200, and then eventually W's right through it. That's like the change in state. This is like sort of like, I mean, the DXY is sort of in this, DXY is sort of right here right now, deciding if it's going to dump again or if it's going to start changing the state. In this case, we broke through and then checked it, which is very common, and then confirmed the uptrend on that check, and then we even checked it again. But point being here, we're making higher lows here, and we're still in an uptrend, in sort of like a medium term uptrend, but we are at the top of the macro term, like the sort of longer term range. So in order to go into a longer term uptrend, we have to break out of the range. We have to get above 2000. However, in order to break the medium term uptrend, won't be broken until we lose the 200 here and M out, and then maybe have to come back down to the bottom of the range. And so as long as we're staying above, and we're testing that one more time. So this is sort of like a moment of truth for Ethereum in a way. It's like if we start losing the 200, you'll slowly start seeing it roll over, and it'll sort of start the process over again. We're just range bound again. And so I don't know, maybe we W out right here. I mean, this thing could actually very well, I don't know what's going to happen exactly, but I lost my marker, but this could turn into a W right here like that. And if that happens, that's just confirmation that the trend is still intact. And then we got to take out the highs to prove that it's still on track. Paul's saying his crystal ball is broken, so he doesn't know either. But I'm just kind of vibing on trends and stuff. I mean, or just like trying to give a zoomed out perspective on what's going on. It's like, it's hard for me to be super, well, I'm not bearish on Ethereum or crypto in general over the long term anyway. I would hope, I'd like to, well, I'm thinking I'm going to get buying opportunities down the road, and I wouldn't be surprised if we are stuck in this range and we do have to lose this and come back down here. It's just, I'm not really going to say, like, you wouldn't find me going like, oh, Ethereum to 500, people like to make huge claims. And as long as we're sitting above the 200, I'm not going to be on Twitter saying Ethereum is going to $500. I'm just going to be waiting here to see if we can W out right here. And you could argue there's a continuation long if you want, same as Bitcoin. You could think about a ABCD kind of long here if that W comes in, which is just not yet. So, but I could see something like that, which would actually test the old highs, and maybe that's sort of like, we're just still trying to creep into a real bull market, which we're not. We're not in a bull market yet until Ethereum takes out that level and starts really trending higher. I mean, like a long-term bull market, like everybody's going to go euphoric kind of bull market, and the public's going to jump back in. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like the public's not in crypto right now. Be interesting to see what other people think, but I feel like only whoever's watching this, we don't get tons and tons of views, that's for sure. But the people that are watching you're probably a pretty diehard. You're probably interested in this on some sort of diehard level, and you probably don't know that many people outside of crypto that are interested. I just don't think, so any sort of bull run we had right here is just the diehards that have been pushing price up here. So we'll see, but point being, it doesn't look great, but it's also still kind of hanging on to the trend. We can't really say that this trend's broken. So anyhow, let's look at some. That kind of took me a while to get through of all of that, but let's look at actually some altcoins, and maybe I'll start with some of the requests I have just to get them, make sure I get to them, because I do have a list here of just stuff people wanted me to look at. And I mean, my first thought is like there's a lot of kind of large red numbers here, a lot of 10% almost, a lot of red here, a lot of over 5% dips. So whatever just happened, I don't know if there was some sort of news that came out here. It was like an hour ago. Things started coming off pretty good here, but there's a lot of red in just this list here. So definitely kind of a down day. But let me check out my list. This first one's KP3R, which I have no idea what this is. I see it around a lot, but I don't know what it does. But I always think the name's kind of cool. Maybe I'll look at it here on. So, I mean, most of these, I'm going to say, I mean, I'm trying to keep this super simple in general with my analysis and buying altcoins. I pretty much only look at weekly charts. When I'm thinking about sort of like long-term buying, I don't even, maybe I'll drill down to the daily chart if it's got less data, but I think you can just do everything you need to do from a weekly chart. And sometimes zooming in it's just going to create too much noise unless you're trying to actually swing trade. I don't really see any reason to look at anything but weekly charts, in my opinion. And also my setup's basically very simple. I'm just looking for strong OBV and weekly Ws. And so right away, I can see the OBV is pretty strong. And by strong, I mean at least a W, but I prefer a divergence. And this actually has a nice, I really like when there's a divergence in this down move. It's like price will come down and find some sort of base and pop. And that sort of is like trying to, trying to mark a bottom of some sort. In this case, we did make a new low, but I really like when I can see OBV divergences in the down move after this first initial kind of pop that seems to happen when a market's trying to bottom after a long bear market. And of course, the bear market's pretty obvious here. I don't, and just using the 13 and 30 moving averages, you could, the 30 is basically the 200 on a daily chart. I like to use the 200 on the daily, but the 30 is essentially the same thing on a weekly chart. So you can use it as the same kind of identifier of trend. And we're still kind of below it. We tried to get above and couldn't, M'd out again, and now we're still below it. And if anything, both these moving averages are pointing, kind of down. They're crossed to the bear side and pointing down. So getting rejected off the 13. So my first thought is the price action is kind of, weak, but I guess I didn't finish my thought on OBV. Sorry. But, the divergence is in. So like, this is in OBV divergence. There's a larger OBV divergence going all the way back to this low. We made this low, another lower low, and then another lower low, and OBV's just been grinding higher the whole time. So that's a good sign. But there's a confirmed divergence right there. So that's like the beginning of me having the green light to start hunting longs. And so I like that. And then the real beginning would be location, actually. And in this case, location, the easiest way to determine trade location is using fib levels. But when you're making newer lows, it opens up the question of like, well, how do you say this is good location? Because this is a new low, or this is a new low at least. And we're at 44. Who's to say we're not going to go down to 1 or 5 cents? I mean, there's a lot of downside here. And and so how do I say this is good location? And that's a little trickier with new lows, when there's a new low here. If this wasn't a new low, it's always nice to just, back here we could have been drawing fibs and just say, I'm going to buy below 61.8. And of course you could have been hunting in this level here and never got any structure to work with, but you would have had location here. But now that we're making new lows, it's a little trickier. So that's where I'd start looking at moving averages more. Or you're just going to simply say, I don't know, this market's washed out. That's good enough location for me. We've come off all this way. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. It's tricky. But this is why I would prefer to just wait for market structure here in a situation like this. Like, I think location's pretty good. Yeah, we made, we were washed out, super washed out, did dip to a new low, and now we might hold that low. It's hard to say. Like, current low is right here. So I think we can establish location's decent, but without market structure. So I have location, I have my OBV divergence. So those are two reasons, but there's just no W here yet. I suppose an aggressive person might go like, well, this is a W. And I guess it is. I don't really like it. I prefer a nice cleaner W, but either way, that's what I want to see happen is a W. So I have two reasons. I just want to wait for one more, and I would prefer to see, a solid and even wider, to be honest. Like, I would really prefer to watch this thing do something like this over the rest of the year. And then I'm going to be looking to buy after the W. So to be clear, like most of the altcoin buying I'm going to be doing from now until the end of the year, there's already going to be a confirmed W, and I'm going to be looking to buy the retest of the W. I'm not knife catching. This is still like a knife catching zone, in my opinion. And, I might do that on something I really want, or if I'm reloading off of a previous double, like if I banged a double out right here or something, I might be willing to just knife catch levels on the way down here. But in general, I'm going to be waiting for a solid weekly W after the location and divergence come in, and OBV divergence, or at least W. So in general, I like it. I just don't like there's no W yet. And because we're making new lows here, it could just keep making new lows indefinitely. So there's nothing really to base a trade on here. But it's cool. In general, I like it. Just got to wait. And also another way of looking at this, like while this W comes in, you'll see these moving averages start to turn. And that's another approach too, is just like you can even see here, like it crossed. Like if we were back here talking about this coin, they started crossing, but we just never got like a W. If that would have W'd through those moving averages as they cross, that would be a nice way to judge this too. But in general, I like it. Just got to wait. And that's kind of the story with a lot of these. It's just not ready yet. We'd kind of hoped for a summer rally and maybe we'd get some doubles off here and stuff. And some coins did pop, but for the most part, the market's been kind of weak. And here we are towards the end of, well, middle August, I guess. And probably looking for lower prices later in the year. So we'll just see if there can be any kind of rally between now and later in the year. But it's sort of looking pretty not so great. But that's a cool one to consider anyway. I do think there's some nicer looking coins, but I'll keep it on my radar. I don't even know if I can. I think I saw that one was on Coinbase. It's on Kraken, but Kraken can be tricky because even though trading, I mean, Kraken has coins that I can't trade still for the rest of the rest of the world can trade. So I have to go double check on Kraken, but maybe I can. Next one's OGN. I haven't looked at this one in a long time. Well, I must have. That's funny. See how I'm drawn? Must have been talking about this back here and saying the exact same thing. And it's interesting to say that the W still didn't come in. My ugly drawings here, but that's actually really interesting. This is a good one to talk about, just in the sense that it didn't work, and it never truly confirmed, and then it didn't work, because you can see like. It's the same story. Like we actually ticked to new lows. We were making new lows all through here. Ignoring this as if this hadn't happened yet, but we were making OBV divergences, and we actually confirmed OBV divergence right here on this up move. And so I would have had, pretty reasonable location, although we did tick to a new low, and I had my OBV divergence. So I had two reasons, but what I didn't have was a weekly W here. And I had drawn these potential W's coming in down the road, and they never came in. And really, there was no reason to take a trade through here, right? So I think that's now the only problem here is OBV got ruined with in this sort of pop and then sell off. Now OBV's kind of lost. I mean, it's still technically in potential divergence because. Well, at least from here to down here, but not from here to here. And there's definitely nothing from here to the lows. And we've just kind of crapped out. So really now it's like the reset button got hit on this, and I'll be waiting for another W at least in OBV. But as soon as a W comes in OBV, then I'll kind of go into sniper mode, wait for, try to buy a W breakout or retest. I guess I didn't say that clearly last time. I'm either going to try to buy the W breakout or the retest of it is the best way to say it. So that's kind of what I'll be doing. So I don't know. This one doesn't look like particularly that great to me. I mean, it's the same story. The moving averages are crossed bearishly. The price is below them. There's nothing in OBV that suggests a bottom, and there's no weekly W. There's just basically all we've really done is made new lows. So it doesn't look that great. But it does look like all of these. It's closer to the bottom than top. I remember just keep it simple and remember that this is a nice channel building. We want to see it like this. The longer this kind of goes like this, the better, and that's how most of these are probably going to bottom. They're going to bang around like this forever. Eventually they'll W out, and then they start their uptrend, and they make these kind of long saucer bottoms. So it's just plugging away. I mean, we're still on track for a potential bull market next year. So that it's good in that sense. It's just not ready just yet. PYR is the next one. And this one, I know this one does have a W. And I actually bought it. So, and it's backing off now because altcoins are getting. Now, this kind of is an interesting question too, because last week I was talking about this too. A W like this is pretty ugly. I know I wanted to buy this one. So when it did break out, let me back up just a little bit. This one's not making new lows, so location can be established through fibs. So, one we can draw our fibs here and just say, I want to buy below 61.8 or 78.6, whatever your level are, whatever the levels are that you like to use. I mean, at least if you're buying at 61.8 and below, you're not like chasing an up market. So now we've held that low, and so we can kind of use that sort of which ironically is funny enough, is the W breakout level now is 61.8 at 364. And we're putting in a nice base of like higher lows. It's not trending higher, but it is making higher lows. Has not lost the lows. And actually there's a weekly W right there to at least sort of give you some faith. And there's actually even kind of like a bigger weekly W just to sort of mark the low. And so location's good. OBV is very much trending higher. In terms of divergences, there is divergences in there. I mean, we're making a nice solid base here, and we haven't been trending down, so there's not like a really strong obvious divergence, but there still is when you kind of just take like even maybe those two lows and see how we made a lower low there, and this is actually confirmed OBV div like right here now, because it looks like we broke actually we haven't quite broken the high there yet, which I think I have this drawn somewhere else, and we did. Let's see, did we? We're getting awfully close. So that OBV divergence will close on, or will confirm on a close higher than that level, which hasn't happened yet. And actually, I mean, to be fair, so anyway, really quick. So we have OBV divergence and location, and now we have a weekly W. But the point I was going to get into, and this kind of applies to all these coins I went through last week, they all kind of looked like, most of them looked like this last week too. PYR hadn't broken out yet, but they all broke out and then they came right back down. And so it's kind of up to you whether you think that, in my opinion, that's a weekly W. It's just not a strong one. I'd really like to see a close above the breakout level to really give me faith that W is going to, hold potentially. So this does not look great. Of course, it's still only Tuesday, sorry. So maybe by Sunday, this is back up here again. At the moment, it looks kind of ugly. But it is a W, and it's sitting below it. So I wouldn't fault anybody for buying down here. You're essentially buying 78.6. I mean, if you like this name, it's got a nice base here that's actually pretty well established. And there is like W's working, like this W back here's holding. And now we have this new W. So I don't know. It's pretty viable to me. This one looks better than the other two. I even tweeted this one out yesterday, I think. But nice solid little channel here that's building, which is what you want to see. And tons of upside, really. This thing's 360 here. It's a 10xer back to the old highs. So, I mean, zoomed out like that looks perfect to me. It's just, I don't really like this this ugly candle here. That could turn red here at any moment, and just we could end up breaking the lows here. It'd be nice to see a solid breakout here and then a retest of it. But like I said, I've been in here nibbling on it. So I like that one. Secret's the next one, which I think this one I don't know if I can trade. We'll look at Tether on Binance. All right, so maybe if people, I mean, really, I don't know. If you think what I'm saying makes any sense, then I would just learn how to do this yourself. It's not that, I mean, every time I stream like this, I'd probably just say the same things. It'd probably get boring after a while. I mean, fortunately, we're at least at a time where we can even talk about this. Like if I was streaming right here, I would just be like, oh, fuck, this isn't very fun. Like we can't say anything right here, or even all this time. Like, I mean, this is a bad example because it doesn't have much data, but like through the whole bear market, we would have had to just be this, there was nothing to talk about. So at least the fact that I'm even willing to stream right now is a good sign that at least we're probably starting to bottom. And you can see the potential weekly W right away. Again, this is kind of one that's making new lows. We haven't set a place where we can draw fibs yet, so we're just sort of in the open air, deep sea, whatever you want to call it, making new lows. But we are starting to base. We even have a little bit of a W here, and OBV's in divergence. So I guess I have my two reasons. I just don't have really a weekly W yet, but I do see. Actually, I want to go back to there. There's making new lows. OBV is making, fib. Higher low. broke out right here, made a nice W and out again right now. So OBV is definitely trending higher. And so, basically that's just telling me that people are accumulating this more than selling it. Or people are trying to step in and acquire this thing, which makes sense. So I think just to keep it simple, it's just like wait for this breakout. There's the W coming in right there. Just wait. I don't know. Me personally, I would rather pay up a little bit. Like it's sitting at 36 cents right now, 35 cents. And I would rather than just buying it right here at 35 cents, I'd rather let it break out here and pay 42 cents. Me personally, I mean, I'm not saying everybody has to do what I do, but at bare minimum, I'd rather just get the confirmation of the W and then look to buy that level and below, to be fair. Like if this thing just rips through here, then I have to draw fibs. And that's, if we do just kind of take off this week and maybe we come all the way up into the 30 moving average, then at that point, all I can really do is draw my fibs wherever the top comes in and start hunting 61.8 and below. And also me personally, I'll hit that W level even if it's a little above 61.8. I'm still okay with that. Just because, I mean, really when I'm looking at this, that's 42 cents. The low's at 28. So there is, a pretty decent amount of risk to the downside, but I'm okay with just taking a nibble on that W and then adding a little lower potentially. And of course, I'm always going to leave room to add lower too, because it is pretty common to watch the first W fail. I guess I should add that too. I mean, it's not uncommon, especially in stocks. I see it all the time. It seems like the stock market, the first W will fail or will break out and then fail. And then the second W is the one you want to buy later on down the road. But you never know that until after the fact. So like you kind of have to, me personally, put myself in a position where I can, add here and then add again lower if I need to, and still only end up with like 1%, of my stake in just one name. And like if our Sunday show, we do the Road to Financial Freedom plan, which is even a simpler version of what I'm talking about here. Or it's not even it's equal. This I'm just looking for a little more confirmation. The Road to Financial Freedom, we are just kind of buying levels, and keeping it really straightforward and easy to execute. But we're only going 1%. We're basically looking to buy 100 names at 1% each, and we're taking 2 5.5% bids. So we're looking for one bid at 0.5, and then like if this W, if we bought this W and then it fails, we'll add another 0.5 at the next W. That's sort of our approach there. But I like this in general. Just wait for the W is all I'm saying. And BNT, this one I actually just went and put a bid in because it had taken off last week pretty strong. I probably got filled. Well, I should have gotten filled at least. So, of course, this is Binance. My bid's on Kraken, but so this one, let's see. OBV, shame on me, is not looking very good, I have to admit here. I don't know what so I might have made a mistake here. Yeah, I mean, I don't love that. I guess I had my little cheeky W down there. Of course, now with the sell-off, it's getting kind of hammered. So we'll see if we'll see what happens here. So I don't love OBV. It's actually trending very much strongly down, but I saw it dumping earlier and I was like, oh, I wanted to buy this one. Cause I mean, this was way up here, of course, last week. It is kind of a good example of maybe I mean, we closed the weekly W. Let's just leave it at that. And so, I have my fibs drawn here, but that's sort of now. But previous to that, I mean, the only problem here is OBV looks like shit. Location was fine here, coming down against the lows, held the lows, made a weekly W, closed the week high with a solid close, above the weekly W level. And at that point, then I went into just hunting mode. And now I just bought the W breakout, which is actually probably in that reload zone anyway. I mean, it's basically 78.6. So this classic you know, buying 78.6 at the previous W breakout. I could have even bought 78.6 and been a little cheaper. But nonetheless, I did take a nibble there, and I like the W. I just don't like OBV, so I sort of overlooked OBV there. That's not generally what I like to see here. So, but either way, I'm okay with it. Took the W, and to be fair, there's a lot of downside here. If we lose the lows, then we probably got to come down another 50% here, down to the old W. It's pretty ugly, but there is, like, you know, this level down here seems viable at 24 cents. So if it can't hold here, but whatever happened, it was strong here the last couple weeks, and then it's just kind of having a rough week so far. And today was kind of ugly for altcoins, so it is what it is. But not my best OBV analysis here. So I am buying a W, so I'm okay with that. So let's see, those are the ones I had on my request, and then it looks like NKN is in the chat. Robel, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, is wants to look at NKN, and I think I like this one. I remember talking about it recently. Let's take a look. Yeah, I've been going about an hour, so I'll probably just try to look at I have a few that I could mention from my last. I kind of want to just comment on some of the ones from last week, but and then I'll wrap it up. So let's see, what can we say about NKN here? Same conversation as all of these. It's weird. I don't know what TradingView. I've noticed TradingView today is doing something weird where my axis here goes blank. I don't know what's going on there, but that's kind of weird. Anyhow, so nice base that's building for sure. This is kind of another one that you can't really, I mean, we came down and made a new low here. We don't have old data from last cycle to work from. Actually, I'm on the perpetual swap. Let me look. That's not where I want to look at that. I was looking at the bind. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, I thought there was old data on this. So this one, we can establish a nice fib range here, and we can tell that we're down probably like 88.6 even if I just drop fibs off the old cycle. You know, 88.6 is up here at 17 cents. So we're below 88.6. So location's definitely good. And we've managed to hold, you know, we've held the old lows. And now we're so far holding like the sort of, well, that's May of last year low. And actually, I banged a double off on this right here. This is a pretty good example of my setup, though, back from here. So let's look at OBV here. You can see, I mean, I missed the trade here. I wasn't involved here, but if you were just to draw your fibs here, you can start, you know, you could have started hunting anywhere down in here as we got into reload zones. And you can also see OBV going into divergence through here. So like, you know, I had location, I had in that move to new lows, had divergence, which broke out, you know, essentially right there, which was on, you know, on that move, essentially confirmed the OBV div. Still no weekly W's. Price came back down. I mean, you could have bought down here, fine, but there was still no weekly W. So it's still patient. It's like a 10, you know, I just still wait another like 2 months, you know, 2 or 3 months for this to play out. But eventually, and that's what I mean. I mean, again, to make my point, I really only want to buy W's and retest the W's because it's more conservative, but it really keeps me out of trouble. And so, sure, you know, and I wait for the OBV sort of tells me that the sort of sell-off is over and people are starting to accumulate. And then sure enough, the W came in right here. You could have bought it on the breakout, or you could have bought it the next week on the retest. You know, it broke out, retested the next week, maybe even retested the week after. Let's see. I'm kind of making a mess here, but I should ditch these moving averages too. Just yeah, call that. Even if you call that the breakout level, sure, some people will take the candle body one, but you wouldn't have gotten filled on the retest. But anyway, actually 3 weeks. Well, you could have bought the week, you could have bought the breakout, you could have bought the retest the next week, and the next week. And then, you know, that was basically 10 cents, a little less than 10 cents. And actually, if you would have paid that, though, you wouldn't have gotten your double. I did get a double. Let's see, what would my trade look like? It was on KuCoin. Oh, I guess, yeah. So I got, I didn't buy till back here. I missed it there. Actually, I don't remember because I don't have it quite. No, I should have bought it right there because usually when I put my lines down here, that's the day I put the bids in. So I actually might have gotten filled here. I have to go look, but I think I got filled right there. But either way, hopefully you can see the same trade applies. It's like there's all those times to get filled here. You wouldn't have gotten your double on the first move. But there was still a lot of time to get filled against that W level. And then, of course, when it did pop, you had to have your orders working, which is another solid point. If your orders aren't working, you would have missed this trade entirely. That's never fun. And an interesting thing about this, I didn't get filled on my other two. This is pretty common for me. This is how I approach this. I just buy, I either buy 61.8 or the W level, and I usually work two more nibbles down at 78.6 and 88.6. And it's just I guess it's my weird conservative. I guess I'm kind of a chicken shit at the end of the day. I don't really ape into shit. So it's like this makes me feel like I'm not chasing when it allows me to chase a little bit on one bid. I can kind of like here I bought above well, of course my fibs are drawn a little different here because I probably when I worked these bids it hadn't popped yet. That's funny. But point being, I can chase a little bit on my first bid, just not chasing, but just buying a W breakout, even if it was above Mountain Man potentially. And then I work my two other cheaper bids, and if I get filled, great. And funny enough, I got a double on the one and never got filled on the other two. And I would have these still working, except then I got kicked off KuCoin. So now I'm kind of like, I'm not, yeah. So this doesn't apply anymore. But I did bang a double out there. But point being, it's just a good example of waiting for location, waiting for OBV div, waiting for the weekly W and buying that. And now, I guess I didn't get into it now, but now it looks kind of emmy here on OBV, and I don't see any sort of W's. So location's good. This W is still holding, but there's, I think the best thing to do here is just wait for it to set up again, which would be at this point, just wait for a W in OBV. This is my approach, at least. Just wait for another W and then wait for a weekly W. But location's still good. Now I think we could update the fibs to the high like that. And, clearly we're sitting at 78.6. So clearly location's good. If this is something that if this is a name that you have a reason to go buy, then I can't fault anybody for buying 78.6. I would never say that like that's a horrible idea. It's just a one reason trade, to be clear. Like if you're just going to hit 78.6 right here, that's just a location reason. You don't have, because you have actually, if anything, you have a big M potentially coming in, or already confirmed. Not quite. Yeah, so if we lose that level, we'll have an even bigger M, but there's this M here. So it's kind of like on pause for the bulls here at the moment, but it doesn't mean it can't rip. It just means there's not a lot of confirmation here. So I'd just be waiting. But so anyway, let me, well, that's all the requests. If anybody has any more in the chat that's actually here right now, feel free to throw them in there. Otherwise, I think I'll just mention a couple that from last week, because I think, remember last week the conversation was more about like, are these weekly W's going to confirm with the close above the breakout level? And the answer is some of them did, like Umphy here. This seems to be the strongest one of this list that all these blue ones. Well, there's a couple others that have popped, like H bar was kind of strong. And, but anyway, we got a nice close on this one. So this, last Tuesday, I went through all these blue ones, and a lot of them had weekly W's where they had kind of like big wicks to the upside, and it was questionable whether or not they were going to close. Like that PYR, that I showed earlier, had sort of like a shooting star kind of candle or whatever, like high wick, but it hadn't closed. This one did close above the breakout level. And so I went and worked a bid here against the breakout. You can see that I have a OBV divergence, which is now confirmed. On last week's candle, we broke this W out. So we have location, which even if I just sort of delete this crazy wick, I won't consider that in my fibs. I'll just use these. You can see that we're sitting right at 78.6 here, almost. Well, the breakout level's right at 78.6, which, funny enough, is that's a good sign. Like, it's pretty common to see the W come in at the 78.6 of the old range, which is why buying at 78.6 is never that bad of an idea. I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to work for sure, but it's not the worst idea to just hit that level. You could have been, I don't think you would have quite gotten a double there, 390 up to 770. So not quite a double in that move, but close. Nonetheless, now we clearly have good location below 78.6, and we have OBV divergence, and we have a weekly W, and I think there's a reasonable chance that we'll test this and maybe even go a little lower, and then either bounce. I mean, I've seen it plenty of times before to just get a solid, strong bounce, or might have to play around for a while, but it is kind of a weird looking W, but it is there. And so anyway, I like the idea of buying a 370 and below. Now, if it doesn't come back there, I'll basically readjust, so if this thing shoots higher here this week, and, then it's just like I'll start drawing fibs, and I'll just be looking for 61.8 and below, wherever that top comes in. But there's a pretty good chance it'll come down in the next couple of weeks and fill me right there. So this one seemed like one of the better closes from last week. Let me try to remember a couple other ones. I mean, LPT also, but it kind of went farther. So this is like a good example. I didn't quite bang a double out on this one. I did buy this breakout at 506, and it didn't get up to 1012. It almost did. So I didn't make a double here yet. Yeah, because the highs were 933, so not quite a double for me, but I did just manage to hit the breakout level. This one also has that same OBV divergence, which really, like, I kind of botched that BNT trade up, but really I want to see all these. These should be like, that one might end up being a mistake in my mistake log. Well, it is. I should actually, whether it's a winning trade or not, I should acknowledge that it didn't fit this setup. So it is what it is. Can't win them all. And it probably still work anyway, because at least I'm buying a weekly W down at the bottom of the range. But point being here, this one's similar in terms of, OBV divergences and now in confirmed on this move. And also the little W down here is a little divergence, which would have been enough for me. That little W as we made that kind of panic low capitulation type candle. So now we have W's right there too, but there also is a wider divergence. But you can't really buy it here, in my opinion. So now all you can really do is draw fibs and either, this is a good example of how typically what I would do here is just work my bid. I'd work one bid here at the breakout level, which is a little below 61.8, and then I'll have bids at 78.6 and 88.6 and just kind of nibble my way into this, because I do think there's a good chance it'll just sort of work its way back down, and then it'll probably set up even another W. There's always the ones that will just rocket right off the Wyckoff check. That's why I like to hit that level, but they're not all of them. So this one looks strong. So that unfi, this one, like, what was an example of one that failed? I think audio. Yeah. So this is the problem. This could happen to that PYR, or, I mean, anything can happen, but this is a similar example where the W wasn't quite ready to start a breakout. It did confirm it broke out. It just closed real ugly. That's not a very bullish looking candle, even though it closed green. And of course now we actually made a new low from last week. So this one's just not ready yet. In terms of like OBV here, just had W's, not divergence. So, and to be clear, OBV divergence is more rare and really is powerful. So like, the difference between just a W and an OBV divergence is a lot, I think. Like, I would much prefer to find divergences. And the reason I don't even use, like, we could look at MACD and RSI and all that stuff too, but I finally just kind of was like, fuck it, I'm just going to use OBV, because what I find with like MACD, well, first of all, MACD divs like seem to confirm first, and they almost never hold on their own. I feel like, I don't know, that's like anecdotal, but like, I don't really like MACD divergences that much anymore. I used to be more into it, but I feel like I have to use RSI for confirmation. So when I use MACD, like, I won't consider a MACD divergence confirmed unless RSI touched oversold. Like if I see like I think I have those on here. Well, I don't have MACD because I don't even use MACD anymore. But anyway, I won't get into that. But point being, I don't, it's like I just found that if I just wait for OBV divergences, then it's like I don't even need to look at RSI and MACD. It's okay. So that's kind of my logic there. I just at some point just was like, I'm just going to use OBV. It seems to work pretty well. And they're rare. They come in last. Like usually a MACD and RSI div will come in before OBV, and often they'll fail. Often the trade will fail, and then you'll go back and look, and OBV never actually went into divergence. So, but anyway, this is one of the ones that didn't confirm a weekly W. Let me pick one more here. Well, I'll mention HBAR because it looked strong. This one is a W and looks like it might confirm this week with the candle body high, but it's broken out. You can see the OBV divergence. Drew a trend line here just to, the W is sort of on the other side of the trend line. It's a little bit inside, which isn't, great. But if you're trying to trade like the trend line LJ setup type thing, then it is there. But I'm not really in this long term. I'm not really looking at that trend line to make my decision here. It's just on there. I'm looking again at just OBV, location back against the lows. I really like this one. Came all the way back down to the old W and tested it. Of course, that would have been an interesting level to just go and hit just because it was, previous market structure. But anyway, now that we've ramped, whether you draw fibs off of here, I mean, clearly the location's good off of the top from these old lows. We're probably well below 88.6, but even if you drew a fib off of just that range, we got down into good location here, and we're chasing a little bit right here. So I think now probably still waiting for a pullback is probably the way to go. But and also this is kind of an ugly W, so I don't really, I think there's probably still time to buy this thing, but nonetheless, it is stronger-ish, right now, especially as the rest of the market has come off pretty good today. But so, the divs in, location's good, W's in. And then maybe what's one other good one? And then I'll look at one more request. It looks like Voxel Constantine was asking about, which is funny. That's like an old school one. I haven't even seen that around in a while, but I'll look at that in a second. Let me pick one more here that looks strong. I can't remember this API 3. This one I bought actually though since last week, since last Tuesday. I did buy this breakout level here. And actually my OBV got kind of killed after that, but I did have it like I had W's in here, and then basically just we got last week, this was kind of a questionable that was 2 weeks ago. So this was the one that was already confirmed last week, but it hadn't come back down to the breakout level, I don't think, by last week's show. But nonetheless, I went and nibbled at it here, and I also have bids working lower. So I like this one, but now OBV got kind of ruined here, so which does happen, but the W is in already. That's just one to chew on. And then I already talked about Bancor. What's in one? Well, I'm not going to do anymore. I'm going to stop there. I'm just going to go to Voxel, and then I don't want to drag on. I've already dragged on an hour and 20. Oh, and also Rio. I'll look at Rio and Voxel, and then we'll call it. It sure is easy to just keep going and going. I don't want to make it too long. This show too long. I was going to try to keep it to an hour, but I'm already at an hour and 20. I don't know if Voxel is Vox. I remember Vox from like 2017 times. And I thought it was called Voxel, but I don't know if they're the same coin now. Yeah, this looks promising. Yeah, man, this looks good. So, again, just to repeat one, the OBV div from way back is in, into this low. And of course, we did make a new low. So it's up to you whether that's still valid for you. It is valid. I mean, it's just, I would consider it just because we're still trending higher on OBV. I don't like that it M'd out right here. I would prefer, this to have been in divergence right here would have been ideal. But did put in a little W, and it still is just generally trending higher. So like in terms of the broader bottom, we're still in divergences here, and we have potential divergence from here. you know, from that low to low, we're in potential divergence. We just haven't quite confirmed it yet. So that's good. And then there's also a little W here. So that's all good enough for me. And then now we have a weekly W that actually didn't technically close above the breakout level. I guess you'd call this the breakout level. This is also this is very subjective stuff here. Like, do you count a wick like that as your W? Or, you know, I see a lot of, I know people that would use in this kind of condition when there's like, when the middle of the W is a big old shooting star or whatever, like just big wick, they'll use the candle body W level, which is probably not you could see how the Wyckoff check happened already last week on that level. So whatever you call your breakout level here, it's still a weekly W. And now we're just seeing a pullback into the level. I don't know about buying it up here, especially at this point now that's cheaper anyway, but that is kind of a steep and ugly looking W just because of that high wick. So it's not the worst idea to just use the lower one at 14.31 cents. Or you could draw your fibs. But basically the trade is more or less on. You know, to be fair, like that's not a very wide consolidation, right? We kind of talk about like saucer bottom consolidation. So yeah, it probably has a good chance it's still bouncing off of this W and holding, but it also might take a lot longer. There might be a lot of back and forth here as this thing really bottoms out, but so far so good. It'd be nice to see this OBV come up and confirm, you know, break out of that high. But in general, I like it. Yeah, it looks good. I mean, this looks a lot better to me than like I mean, I don't know, like just something that's not, you know, something that's just grinding lower. At least we have like a base here with the W. So I like that. And I'll end with Rio for Zoknex. ZOKNXX. I don't know how you say that. And I don't even know what Rio is. He says it's on, or he or she, sorry, says it's on OKX. Definitely as a US resident, I'm definitely not trading on OKX. That's for sure. Which sucks, man. It really sucks. The whole I'm a little bit salty about fucking crypto in the US right now. It's annoying because it sucks to watch. Like, I mean, most of Crypto Traders Arena is not in the US, so I watch all those guys trading all the time, and I'm just like, okay, I can't. I can't. It's just and plus I just moved a shit ton of stuff off KuCoin, and it made my accounting fucked up, and now it's like stuff that I bought with USDT on KuCoin, I'm going to probably sell for US dollar on Kraken, which is fine, except then it just completely fucks my like accounting up. And you know, whatever, just that's enough bitching about that, but I'm salty. So anyway, Rio, this one's a little high to be buying, but I do like the W back here. Didn't quite fit my setup. We didn't really get OBV divergence coming in here. We did get W's later, but it was kind of too late. Probably could have drawn reload zones off of the lows here and maybe just kind of look to hit 78.6. Man, that's a great example of 78.6. Fuck. Basically just hit it on the money. So if that's your I mean, to be fair, I mean, this is the way I traded more. I mean, this sort of like, I don't know, when I first learned how to do this, I was more aggressively willing to just kind of do this. Like if I missed a breakout, I would just hit 78.6. And that's fine. That's a great way. I mean, I just am not current. And actually, if I showed you my trading plan, you'd see that I actually have this. I call this like knife catching. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But when I'm buying levels like this with no structure, I just call it knife catching. I literally have a setup in my plan called knife catcher. And literally in my plan right now, it says, that I'm not taking those at the moment. And my thinking is just, I think we're still early in the accumulation cycle. I think that we could probably keep bouncing around the bottom here for another year. So it's like, to me, I don't want to spend all my dry powder buying levels right now. I'd rather just wait for the best W's to come in. And then sometime next year, I'll probably change, you know, I'll probably, once the market seems a little more likely to be entering into a bull market once things are a little bit more hopping and the public is starting to come in a little bit. Then it's like I'll be more likely to just hit a level like this. But right now I'm not really into it. But with that said, it's too late right here to do anything. I don't really think that right here is a great place to be buying this thing. I mean, it does have like a nice base and there's a lot of upside. It's just you're kind of chasing here. In fact, you're kind of in like a short reload zone off of the recent top. So like, if you drew fibs from the top down, you're starting to get up. You're in. Well, you already got it. It's already gotten rejected from the short reload zone here. So, and the candle body highs here are a decent short location. So I don't know. I don't love the idea of buying it here. There is another cheeky little weekly W here, and you can see the Wyckoff check right there, checking the level and bouncing, but it's just not my style to go buy here. And I think you're asking for trouble too, because you buy this thing here at 28 and then tomorrow it's down to 10. Or so, there's just not a lot there's not a good location. So rule number 1 would be trade location, and I don't see it there. And then OBV does have a W now working, and it is starting to trend higher. So that's okay. Like ideally what I'd like to see happen is price does come back down and actually even makes like a new low relative to these lows, and then OBV stays in divergence. And then you get a W somewhere after that. Whoops, that's a horrible W, but get the point. Some sort of W here on divergence. So I think it's just way too early to do anything right here. So Rio, if you miss this trade, you have to take your Duran Duran posters down. All right. Well, anyhow, that's an hour and a half. Geez, that I've been rambling on. Thanks, Constantine, for telling me I have awesome analysis. I hope you're right. And really, I'm just keeping it simple. I'm just talking about things that I've been taught and that I've used, and they work for me. And of course, trading is all about figuring out what works for you. You can learn technical analysis for days and days and years, and there's a million different ways to do this. It's just when I'm talking about like weekly charts, I've basically told you how I'm doing it. It's very simple. You really need to learn fibs, and you need to learn divergences, and you need to learn market structure, and then of course you have to figure out your execution and all that stuff, which is really the hard part. I would say like actually following this is the hard part. It's not that hard to understand it and learn the tools. What's difficult is actually 1, getting into the trade, and then 2, not getting shaken out of the trade later. That's a whole other thing. And of course, that's why we trade setups, right? And a good setup should tell you when to enter, and it should tell you when to exit, both as a stop loss or a win. You should have that laid out. And of course, in this case, it's even kind of easier because I'm not using a stop here. These are all risking to 0 trades. And so if it doesn't work, essentially, I mean, in my plan, I only have a couple reasons I can sell. One of them was getting kicked off the damn exchange. If I have to liquidate, which I did have to liquidate some coins when I got kicked off KuCoin. So that's one reason I'm allowed to sell outside of my plan. And really, that's actually the only reason. Really, just systemic reasons are the only reasons I can get shaken out of these trades. So I've committed myself to staying in these trades, and any kind of panic dumps or, any kind of black swan events. And I'm not going to panic sell down here at the bottom. And I'm taking risks that I can afford, and I'm not going all in on anything. And you see how conservative I mean, I'm pretty fucking, I have friends that are like hate how conservative I am. I know traders that always just like roll their eyes at me because I'm not, well, I wouldn't call them traders. I know like sort of crypto moon boys that just roll their eyes at me, and I get sick of talking about it with them because they don't think I'm aggressive enough for it. But I don't know. It's just how I am. But my point is like, I'm gonna ride. I've put myself in a position to be able to hold these things to 0 if I have to, which hopefully I won't. And I think like over the long haul, I'll probably do pretty good. I do think there's a relatively good chance of a bull market coming in the future. Like I just want to make sure I get in at good levels so that I'm that I can sell half on a double when they do pop and get, my capital back. And then I'm gonna ride these things into the fucking, I don't know. Hopefully this will be, going back to our road to financial freedom plan, we have a clear, and I'm actually following something very similar for this, but we're going to sell halves on doubles here in the bottoming phase of the market where we can and get our capital back. And remember, I was saying we're putting 1% per name, and if we sell on a double, we get that capital back, so we can go buy something else or rebuy that same name. So we might end up with a handful of names that we have 2 or 3% of our original stake in, but we've gotten free positions and been able to add or whatever, and we'll slowly accumulate. And then when the true bull market starts, we're just going to try to ride it as much as we can into like peak euphoria. And we are just going to use a very simple plan. There's an indicator called the Pi Cycle Top indicator that somebody made that seems to do a pretty good job of at least sort of judging when things are getting nosebleedy. Like it fired on Bitcoin in the first high last year or last cycle. So it fired like on this high last time. And I would have been okay with exiting all my altcoin positions right there. I would have missed this fake, this was like the FTX fake rally, you could say. Like, I don't know, this was like juiced by like fraud. So I don't know. But anyway, like peak euphoria was happening here. I think you could argue that people were pretty damn euphoric in here, and that's when that signal fired. And when that signal fires again in the next cycle, we're gonna basically just start unloading most of whatever we accumulated down here. And so I like that plan. I mean, basically we're gonna sell halves on doubles, try to get our capital back as much as we can over the next year or so, and maybe longer, and then eventually you'll it's like I can't predict what's going to happen, but I do think there's a good chance that there will be a time again where everybody's piling back into crypto and everybody's all excited, and you start hearing the general public talking about it, and everybody's, basically, unfortunately, getting ready to buy the top. Because, I mean, most people are going to buy when it's too late. And so here we are just rambling on about OBV divergences and shit, just trying to buy the bottom here so that later we're already loaded up and just sitting back and enjoying the ride. So that's my goal. And, if you want to join us with that, we're every Sunday, Paul and I basically go through that plan. And then on Tuesdays, I'm going to keep doing this, and it'd probably be like a deeper dive into sort of like a lot of the names that we're not talking about on that Sunday show. Because the Sunday show is sort of, it's a little bit more geared to like the top market cap coins. We are going to slide some like newer names into it, but for the most part, we're kind of focused on like the top 100 or so market cap coins. And so this show, I'll probably talk about more of the random stuff or the things that are more up and coming. And then, of course, on Tuesdays, we also have I already mentioned the Discord link at the bottom of this stream. If you want to join our Discord, and if you do, on Tuesdays we have we open up the New York trading session. We do trade live every day for New York around the New York Open, and on Tuesdays we all the members have access to that, and then the rest of the week it's just our premium members that are in that room. And then also I think on Tuesdays the London session is also open, which maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but I'm always asleep then. But I think that on Tuesdays we have the London session open to all the members as well. And what else can I say? Then I'll just end with, we're launching our first sort of like training program in September. We are basically going to teach a sort of entry level trading course. And the goal here is to get you to a place where you can, swing trade on your own in the market, and also have the tools you need to like day trade and stuff. We kind of using swing trading as like a cutoff, just as like, we really want to build like a training program that will jumpstart you into like being able to trade with our group, like to kind of at least understand the concepts that we, because a lot of us all talk about the same thing. Kind of, nobody trades exactly the same way, but we do trade similar setups. A lot of the same kind of activity is going on. And so this course is basically just to try to onboard you into that so that you can hit the ground running and start taking trades on your own, with the trading plan, with the risk management plan, with setups that you've vetted, and really we just want to, I kind of think of it as like if I had a prop firm, this is like a decentralized prop firm or something. We're not going to fund anybody, but it's like, I like to think of it like that. It's like if I had a prop firm and I was trying to train new people to help to trade for me, like how would I teach them? And I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to take, it's basically a 4-month program. The first 3 months are going to be sort of like the curriculum, and then the last month will just be actual like practical trading with Paul and I. You'll basically have to be reporting your activity to us, not necessarily with real money, by the way, right there. I mean, well, with little money. Like you will be trading with small money, I think, at that point. It's not really going to be a paper trading type thing. We really want to get people active. It's just that we like to promote like $100 challenge, especially in crypto. It's really easy to take like really tiny trades. So we expect people to get to that level probably by the end of month 4. But that 4th month, the point being, you'll actually be working with us to execute in the market. And then of course, then there'll be, along with this whole thing, then you'll have membership to our premium group for another 8 months after that. So it's really a year-long program, but the course itself is 3 or 4 months. And again, like I said, the main focus here is execution. So we want to get you to a place where you can execute in the market. So we're going to try to not get bogged down in the details of like endless technical analysis. We're going to focus on the core things that we've determined to work for the most of our group, the same kind of indicators and stuff that everybody's using. The most of the focus is going to be on that, and then also teaching you how to like go out and teach yourself. Really a lot of this is like you once you kind of understand the general gist of technical analysis, the journey just starts there, because you can then go down every rabbit hole on the planet trying to find what speaks to you and what you like the most. We're not going to do that. We're not going to teach like a ton of different technical analysis, because we really want to wrap this whole thing up into what you absolutely need to know so that you can execute on your own. Because at the end of the day, nobody's going to be able to hold your hand here. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. So if you're interested in that, best thing to do is just join our Discord room with the link below here, and then just reach out to Paul or me through there, or you can always hit us up on Twitter. Again, I'm Double Uses on Twitter, and Paul is Paul J Trading. And I'll leave with saying that we're calling that program Capua 1, and it's just kind of a fun name because Capua was the gladiator school, I guess, in the Capua Coliseum, and there was a gladiator school there. And so we're basically training you for battle. So get ready. Of course, you're only basically fighting bears and bulls. So anyhow, if you want more information about that, just reach out to us in Discord. Again, it is starting in September. We opened up the registration basically today. And I don't know, I'll be shilling it a little bit. I mean, it's like, I do want, it would be, well, how do I say it? Like, I don't want to be a shill, this isn't like a shilling thing, but at the same time, I do want to promote it. And, I do want people to, if people are interested in learning how to trade, I'd love you to reach out to us. And we'd love to show you what we know. And we've made it pretty affordable, and for what it is, I think it's cheap actually. And we also do include our THG indicator with all that too. So at the end of it, if anything, you'll at least have the skills to trade our THG tool, which that in itself can be ridiculously profitable actually, especially once the bull market hits. So if you kind of learn how to trade, get your plan in order, and learn how to use THG, then when we do go into like a serious uptrend market, I mean, THG is a great way to trade trends, because it gives you very identifiable places to enter and to work your stop and your trailing stop. So, and that comes with it. That's like lifetime access to that actually. So anyhow, I'll leave it at that. And Hard Made Easy, what's up, man? Good to see you. That's a name I haven't seen around here, but I've known for a while. Thanks for joining us, and you're welcome for the stream. And shit, now I've been going on for an hour and 40 minutes. It's a weird thing to just sit in a room by yourself, just talking. It's very weird, but here I am. So anyhow, I'll see you guys on Sunday. I'll be back to do the stream with Paul, and then pop in our Discord and say hi. And if you got any questions, feel free to reach out to me, even on Twitter. And even if you just want to, like, I don't know, just you're interested in learning how to trade and not sure if you want to join our program, I'm happy to at least entertain your questions, and if I can help you if I can at least point you in the right direction so you can get started. I think that's like the key here, because like really you just want to like learn what to learn, because you don't want to go, I don't know. It's like if you just go searching on Google, you're not going to, I mean, there's just endless YouTubers talking about crazy shit. And like, I don't think it's nice to have something. It's nice to have somebody that already has been through some of the headaches of this stuff kind of show you the path. I mean, that's how I learned. So yeah, feel free to hit me up with any questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer them if I can. And other than that, I'll just say bye to everybody, and thanks for joining me, and I appreciate it. And I'd love feedback if you guys ever have it. And I will just say, I don't have any great outro speech or anything, so I'm just going to hit my disclaimer button again and say see you guys later. So take it easy, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.